Hello and welcome back, everyone. Happy Wednesday at the point at which I start recording this, but definitely Thursday by the time I finish recording this, and it is indeed a very happy Wednesday when I start recording this, and by the time I finish recording this Thursday, happy Thursday indeed, because we are going to be getting news that is going to be interesting for the Victoria 3 people. We haven't read through it yet, but we've just kind of skimmed, but there is going to be discussion of things like goods reworks as they are kind of circling back to some of the economics of Europa Universalis 5. So for those of you who, or Europa Universalis 5, Project Teaser, Project Caesar, Project Tizar, for those of you who are interested in the economics aspect of Victoria 3, this should be an interesting one to read through. So I'm very excited to read through it. I was going to save it for tomorrow, but it's already tomorrow because it's Thursday. Happy Thursday on a Wednesday. No, wait, happy Wednesday on a Thursday. That's the one. And so without further ado, let's get into it. Hello, everyone. Now, we know that Johan leaves us messages in secret code here, and he likes to do it through capitalization. Everyone is capitalized, and welcome is everyone. I think he means that this dev diary is rated E for everyone, talking about these hands. They're free, buy one, get one free. Welcome to another Tinto Talks. Of course, Tinto Talks is capitalized. This is a happy Wednesday. Of course, happy Wednesday is capitalized, not for any special coded message, but because it's a holiday, where we talk about our yet unannounced game with codename Project Tizar. The main reason, for those of you who like to pronounce it correctly, the main reason for us to do these Tinto Talks is to gather feedback to improve the game. What you have been telling us really matters. And now we will talk about some of the important changes that have happened during the last year. When we talk about external feedback here, it's primarily from people reacting to Tinto Talks, and when we say internal feedback, it's from people at Paradox and our partners playtesting it. Partners playtesting it, who then be? I would tell you, but it's Project Teaser. Top secret. Actually, notice he didn't say it was top secret. I think this is code that there's some sort of secret thing going on, and he's trying to keep it under wraps. The non-secret secret message, by it not being secret, welcome, E-W. It's not EA. It's not in the game. Not yet, at least. The goods rework, though. Let's get into this. We added 5 goods and removed 2 by merging some goods, and all from great feedback and suggestions we got. Okay. We expect performance to get worse as you add more goods, but the simulation to get better. First of all, we listened to your arguments and split spices into 3. Saffron for the Europe and the Middle East, pepper for Asia, and chili for the Americas. That's fair enough. Talking about spice, we talked about naming them with generic terms, but these were the terms we felt that were most immersive. Dates were merged into fruits. Damn, now dates will be even harder to get. And soybeans was merged into legumes. This makes sense. Everyone knows that soybeans, legume, also peanuts, not a nut. They're a legume. This was because, also olives, a fruit. This was because we want to make sure goods add interesting depth and flavor to the economy, especially the edible goods, because that's what we're about. Speaking of, why didn't you put the U in flavor? It's more flavorful that way. Without cluttering the system, and we thought that there are better candidates to split up. Okay. We added beeswax to simulate everything from honey to candles. This was heavily requested from the community, and this is a common raw material around most of the world. Fair enough. 2 new produced goods were also added in pottery and furniture. Pottery is primarily, or is produced mainly from clay, and is demanded by both POPs and many buildings providing alcohol. Furniture requires lumber to be produced, and it is primarily demanded by POPs, while some administrative buildings require a small amount of furniture regularly as well. Okay, so this seems fair enough. We do have pottery in here now, and we will have furniture. The goods tooltips show market-related information when available. Here, Riga has 7.94 of surplus pottery, so it should be nicely exported. And now we see that it will be affecting price, and as far as I can recall, they have said that they will have a price system somewhat similar to Victoria 3, but there will be finite goods, unlike Victoria 3, when last this was discussed, in that if there's 10 goods in a market, and there's demand for 12 goods, that means 2 people will just not get the good, which is how goods work in real life, but in Victoria 3, they just eat fake goods. And so this is a point of distinction, although Victoria 3 is doing other stuff that Europa Universalis Project Teaser will not be doing. But continuing on, Some goods got increased in base prices, like lumber and salt, and many demands for goods have been changed from feedback. Okay, both external and internal. Salt, as an example, is now required for maintenance of auxiliary regiments and for market buildings. This makes some sense. Salt was just as a good, just a critically important good that has like kind of a rich history, as does fabric and textiles in general. Both are like integral for the evolution of humankind in a way that I think doesn't ever really get properly captured in map games, but we're not going to properly capture it on a happy Thursday or happy Wednesday on a Thursday. So continuing on, productivity and specialization. Something that was suggested at many places was to improve specialization and make different locations more unique when it comes to industry. This is something that is not present really in Victoria 3, whereas where everything is autarkic and all the economies are, you're just, as a result of trade not being very good, just in general, you're incentivized to make every economy basically look the same. But this was achieved by 4 mechanical changes, and this is what I'm excited to read through. First of all, we added in a soft building cap, where every town can support 25 building levels, every city 100 building levels, and each development point in a location adds another building level. Fair enough. Each level above the cap increases the building cost in that location by 10%. That is a really hefty cost. This, besides making you want to diversify your cities, makes decisions to go from guilds to manufactories to mills something you want to strive for. It has the added benefit of adding some minor diminishing returns for the very rich and adding incentive to get cities where possible. So it makes you want to diversify your cities so that you don't just build in one city. So this sounds like the opposite of specialization. Multiple specializations, perhaps, in that you will develop a kind of textured economy. But okay, let's continue. Secondly, which ties into specialization, is the fact that every single level of a building adds another 1% production. Economies of scale. There's the follow-up. You gimp your ability to build tall because you're going to reward from economies of scale. This should look very familiar. This is like a Victoria 3 thing, right? This is economies of scale. This serves to represent economies of scale. That's exactly right. So if you have a town with a level 8 brewery, you will produce 8% more beer than having 8 towns with level 1 brewery each. So you will get incentive for this. Now, to be fair, markets tended to be more local at the beginning of this time period here, and it was only around like the 1700s that specialization started to really, really kick in. And Adam Smith in Wealth of Nations talks about this very extensively. And he talks about like a blacksmith knowing only how to make nails, and only making nails is way better at making nails, and boy can he make a lot of nails. But the problem is you don't have an ability to distribute all these nails. And there's not going to be enough people buying the nails for you to actually properly make use of the fact that you're extra efficient at it. So hoping to see this to be really, really your ability to push for something like this, push for economies of scale, which this is a tremendous reward, right? 1% per level. And when you get up to 25, 100 is freaking enormous, right? But this means that, and this also makes the 10% cost not really too bad to bear. But someone's got to eat these goods, otherwise the price collapse. Remember, there's a price mechanic in Europa Universalis 5. So this is going to incentivize not just specialization, but the specialization in turn incentivizes trade, right? Because you don't want the prices to collapse. Thirdly, we added a mechanic that we have used in previous games and added the benefits to having raw materials produced locally. Okay. If it's not as fun to say as mappy, we're not interested in the game. If you have access to the input goods in the same province the building is in, you can now get 10% more production efficiency for the building. That doesn't sound like mappy as an acronym. We got to leave some feedback. Finally, we have the base amount of levels of RGO you could have in a location, which were heavily tied to population and development, and then gave rural locations a plus 100% boost to RGO levels. So rural things will produce a lot more at lower levels, but they won't be able to build more levels, and you will be incentivized to upgrade to cities so that you can push up levels and then really reap the benefits of the economies of scale. And then you're going to not really be getting the economies of scale benefits because you have the base levels, right? But it is just giving more of this. So rather than getting like it's going to be more linear for rural areas and more exponential looking for urban areas, because when you add much like in the Victoria 3 math, in which we've said so many times, when you get the first economies of scale level, it's going to be worth 102% of a building. When you go from level 1 to 2 in Victoria 3, it's worth 104% of a building, or 103% of a building, actually, because you are going to get the 102% of a building from your thing that has 2% economies of scale, and then an extra 1% on the previous building you had that was at 101% economies of scale, moving to 102, which means this is more valuable than the actual building you have. But when you build the 50th building, hitting the cap, notice this did not mention a cap, I don't think, in terms of the economies of scale cap. But when you get to the 50th building, right, it's worth 199% of a building, because the building itself is worth 150%. But also the previous 49 buildings are worth, bring those from 49%, 149% to 50%, so it represents an additional 49% of a building in terms of value. And so it's not a very steep exponent, but it's each marginal level is adding more than the previous marginal level. And so in this way, pushing it, if you can bridge this barrier to entry where you have a problem getting enough demand, which this is really how industrialization started, is the creation of mass market economies gave enough demand to kickstart the entire thing. If you can break through that, then on the other side there's huge economic boons. And so we're seeing some of these things, gears moving a little bit in terms of what we're reading here. Finally, we have the base amount of RGO levels you can have in a location. Okay, wait, we already read that. Okay. Here we have the amount produced. Wheat breweries, level 3. Access to input goods, it's fine. Market access, yikes, a little bit low. The output is 2.67. So here we have, even if you can produce a ton, if you can't access the market properly, you're going to have a bad time. Although market access is different than having people to consume it. Produced a 2.91 from 2.67 with 100% required workers due to average literacy of laborers, pulling it down by 0.5%. Burgers estate satisfaction, pulling it down. Pushing it up. This is pulling it down. Wheat in Cambridgeshire, so this is having the input goods available, and also the levels of pushing it up here. And so this is what we're getting, but this is the amount produced. The value of this is influenced by the price. This is a level 3 brewery in Cambridge that has access to wheat nearby, but not enough lumbers and tools. Womp womp. The lack of market access impacts the throughput a bit, though. So that's what we're seeing here. And really, this is going to be so fun to work through the economics of this, because the system is borrowing a lot from Victoria 3, but there's also some other stuff going on, like the market access. It doesn't just make the goods more expensive. You just don't get the goods, and so you just significantly reduces your output, right? Here we have minting. We have reworked minting and the inflation mechanics. To be more tied to the production of precious metals. This is fair enough. It's the amount of goods divided by the wait, no, that's not the thing. Though it's goods divided, supply of goods divided by total money. So when you increase the money, you decrease, when you increase the denominator, right? Then that would decrease the thing. Never mind. Forget what I just said. I'm trying to combine two different. I'm trying to combine in my head two different things that it doesn't make sense. In Project Caesar, aka Project Tizer, we have a Project Teaser. We have two precious metals in gold and silver. But a mod could have many as they want. They have three different impacts from these precious metals on minting, though. First of all, the amount of gold and silver that you produce, it has an impact on the income you get from minting new coins, i.e. more actual metals used for coins instead of lost in transactions. Okay. More metals actually used for coins instead of lost in transactions. Is this a corruption mechanic they're referring to? I'm not sure. Certainly when there were shortages of gold and silver, what would happen is that the amount of bullion that would go into each coin would generally be decreased, and it would be cut with some other inferior metal, and this would decrease the value of the currency. Secondly, the production of gold and silver as a percentage of your total goods production of your economy will increase inflation. Womp womp, shout out to Spain. Finally, minting requires access to gold and silver, and if a country can't get it from the market, then they can't produce more money. The truth hurts. Minting new coins gives you this, okay? It gives you 8% of the current base tax rate is going to give you this amount. Current minting, 25% times 0.32. Don't know what this 0.32 is exactly. Ban of export is going to increase it, so we're hoarding gold. This is the mercantile way. We have gold produced is going to increase this as well. And inflation changes by 0.07 due to minting threshold is 5%. And is this because we're over the minting threshold with the 8%? Not exactly sure. And the amount of gold produced is going to both increase minting and increase inflation. The base value for every currency is minus 10%. Current minting level is 13%. And so because we are over minting, because we have so much gold and silver, we're getting a lot of money and also inflation. So we would need some sort of mechanics for combating inflation. Shout out to Spain. That mechanic they used was collapse of an empire. And so let's continue. Hungary has a fair amount of gold and silver produced, so they can benefit nicely from it. Banning the export of gold and silver in the precious metals distribution law has some nice benefits to income from minting, even if there are drawbacks. Okay, sure, fair enough. Although, if you did export it, you would probably have less inflation. So that's going to be cool. But I think this is the first we've seen anything about inflation. And so there's only so much we can unpack just by looking at this here, in terms of looking at the numbers and this type of stuff, but this is so incredibly exciting. Here we have population changes. One thing we noticed through the testing was how the entire raw materials economy could basically ignore deaths as long as you had enough peasants around, because living peasants would instantly fill the vacancies created by deaths. What, you've never heard of capitalism, Johan? It's called surplus labor, sweetie. We decided to change that by splitting peasants into three different pops. Laborers, soldiers, and peasants. No, not more pops. Abort, please no. So this to me is just a huge performance red flag. This terrifies me. I guess I don't know anything about game design and implementation, in a well-informed type of way, other than hearing people who actually know how to do the thing talk about it. But this to me is scary. I don't like splitting of the pops. Please don't do that. Not like this. Laborers and soldiers are still lower-class pops and belong to the same estates, but they need to be promoted from peasants to fill the vacancies in RGO buildings. So this means that if you have a bunch of laborers die, is this just a qualifications mechanic? This maybe sounds like qualifications. Laborers are the ones who could do the job, and there's friction promoting peasants to laborers instead of it just being free. Peasants now represent the common people over whom we rule. Most of them live on subsistence farming, aka crypto bros, or in our villages. Labor represents the people who work manual labor in town, cities, and rural locations. And so they're going to be the RGO people. They work the land to create, harvest, and create the raw materials that are the backbone of the country, or work as unskilled laborers in mills. Soldiers represent the common people that provide the manpower and armies, garrisons, as well as soldiers and navies. Okay, fair enough. Although, I still think this is a qualifications thing, right? Or that's a close analogy. Genoa has a rather diverse group of people. Yeah, every time they add one of these groups, it's more splintering. We just, maybe we're just Maybe it's just a matter of how optimized they are, and we just shouldn't be too concerned. But we do see close to 90% peasants here, right? And then labor is 6,000. If these guys die too fast, then the peasants won't be able to replenish here. And we do see, I think the plussing, we see some promotion or this types of things. And so we do not want our laborers, our skilled laborers to be dying. Promotion has been reworked as well, where not all pop types promote as quickly. Pops promoting to clergy and nobles promote at 10% of the promotion speed, while pops promoting to burghers promote at 50% of the promotion speed. Pops becoming a laborer, though, promote at 150% of the speed. So this is what we have. We have a promotion mechanic that's going to throttle this type of thing, and then I assume only a certain number of job availability for laborers, so you can't just like over promote. Like if you have 6,100 laborer jobs, right? I'm guessing the way it's going to be working is once you have 6,100 laborers, you stop promoting. You see, there's no plus number, either through prop growth or promotion, right? Because it certainly makes sense that, it wouldn't make sense that the burghers are growing at a rate faster than the peasants. So this must just be the peasants' growth minus the promotions, and this is the promotions that the peasants are doing to this, I suppose. But the laborers are stuck here at a nice round even number. Round even doesn't make any sense, but you know what I'm saying. And so this means that significant loss is going to speed bump your economy if you lose a bunch of workers. And you won't have guys in reserve. Like, I mean, that's kind of how it is in Victoria 3. You don't really care if your people are dying in their jobs or whatever if you have additional peasants. Okay. We see monthly promotion, base values, university, plenty of opportunities, giving a little bit more, literacy more, city location rank, lack of control, would be a malice, local work of arts, shout out to Naples, and from positive stability plus 30%, and we will see the following promotions will happen. Laborers plus 81, nobles, clerics, burghers. Laborers are easier to train, that's true. We also changed how pop demands work and made the demand scale by development of the location, so pops in advanced parts of the world will now demand more advanced goods. This creates a constant growth. Growth in terms of demand, the peasants should still just live entirely subsistence and not demand stuff. It was the creation of a mass market economy that led to industrialization. I wonder if they have that tamped down or you can industrialize early. But also I wonder how substitution works. Substitution in Victoria 3 is incredibly wonky, right? The way substitution works, for those of you who don't know how wonky it is that their buy basket is informed by the quantity of sell orders in the market, not by the prices of those goods. Now, generally speaking, the more sell orders you have in the market, generally this will make the good cheaper. As long as like the buy order is like somewhat proportionate to it. But there's some weird cases where you could be exporting or forcing export to sell and this type of stuff where it won't be the cheapest because exports create buy orders, right? And so your pops don't care about price though. They will just consume their buy basket based on the proportion of sell orders. And so they don't actually properly substitute goods. And so this leads to like weird types of things. Like pops will generally underconsume groceries relative to grain, even though groceries might be, like you might force groceries to be cheaper than grain. And then you're like, why are they not eating the groceries? They're just eating grain. It's because there's not enough sell orders proportionally to the grain. But let's see how this works. We also changed a bit how the economy works for pops and estates. The pops are no longer getting their good entirely for free, but instead the estates will now have to pay for the goods that the pops need and the money that they have left over after taxes. Okay, very cool. Estates get a share of money and now they have to pay for their consumption goods. The amount that they spend per pop scales with the control of the location, so it is balanced comparison to the income that they get. So the more the control they have, it's just going to be proportionate, I guess, to however much money they're getting. Sure, like income tax, but a consumption spending percentage. This severely limits the snowball effect from having rich estates invest in themselves, making the country richer. Yeah, so instead they will consume stuff. So we see a bunch of pop needs, okay? We see 42 in Naples, Yeah, you know what? I think that I think that substitution is maybe just not occurring at all in EU5. That's fair. If that's the simulation, we just see it's going to be a buy basket here. But the richer they get, the more their buy basket's supposed to change, right? It's scaled about. Oh, it scales by the development of the location. It's not about the pops. It's just pops in more advanced areas of the world. So there's no substitution. That's fine. Wasn't expecting to see necessarily something too complex. Was a little bit of hopes, but okay. Nobility has needs and also spends money on them. Another problem that was identified through testing was that basing the distribution of income in a location on the political powers of the states was that in almost all the cases the commoners got nothing and the nobles got everything. Isn't that how it's supposed to work? Which meant that that you never wanted to tax your commoners, but wanted to squeeze everything out from the nobles. Yeah, it's called tax the rich. It's called eat the rich. Welcome to Victoria 3. While being an admirable goal, it does not reflect the historical reality as much, so how do we solve this? Yeah, I mean, it really doesn't, but okay. Well, before we added the Cossacks, tribes in the Dimi estates, from the feedback, there was a one-to-one direct connection between a specific pop type and which estate they were supposed to belong to, so the estates could get exactly the amount of money their pops were generating. And since we did not want to do something performance crippling, thank you, like splitting pops into one per building, this I do believe that this is Johan throwing shade, because Victoria 3, every single, so a pop refers to a group of population. So it's not talking about an individual person. He's talking about a group of population. So if it's a Sunni noble, like a Sunni noble that is, Egyptian, a Sunni Egyptian noble, something like this, that's a certain pop type. And if you split it so that it was a Sunni noble working in specifically the bricklaying thing, for whatever reason, I don't know why the noble would be there, he's working in the bricklayer, then there would be, instead of just having the pop group for Sunni nobles, Sunni Egyptian nobles, you would have Sunni Egyptian nobles working in bricklayers, Sunni Egyptian nobles working in the tavern, Sunni Egyptian nobles working in the, etc., for every single different building type. This is what Victoria 3 does, and so this is Johan throwing a little bit of shade at Victoria 3. And since we did not want to do something performance crippling, like splitting pops at one per building, we went with pooling all income and location and distributing it by political power. So this is what they do. So in Victoria 3, for example, if you have the machinists in the tooling workshop can get paid different than the machinists in the furniture manufactory. In EU5, they get pooled together. So you just have machinists in the state, and they all get paid the exact same amount, and they're not split at all, which is for specifically cooperative ownership. This is the example where you really need them to be split, right? If for the simulation to make sense, you need them to be split. But EU5 doesn't split them at all, and they don't do this for performance reasons. And so this means that the number of entities that they have relative to like Victoria 3 is if there's 10 different or 15 different types of buildings in Victoria 3 and a same number of states, but I think there are more locations in EU5 than Victoria 3, so it's not a direct comparison, then that means there's 15 times as many entities to track. Now, though, that has changed, and we instead distribute it in a fixed fraction per pop in the estates, so commoners and burghers get money that you want to tax from their work. Okay. 1337, here we see tax base in Naples. 1337 is a bit early to embrace the Reformation. Sure, fair enough. So I could tax the clergy, but we could build up the city so that more burghers are taxable. Next week, we'll go into changes done to politics, proximity, and societal values. So this is very, very exciting to see, especially the inflation. We haven't seen anything about inflation to my recollection, and now we have inflation. We have some little bits on qualifications, or the equivalent to qualifications. It's called promotion, and here we have a little bit about economies of scale and this type of stuff, and specialization. And so super excited about this dev diary and very excited to see what else they're cooking, like in terms of politics and stuff like this. And so I hope you enjoyed it, but we're starting to get into the dev diaries are going to be picking up, I think, and this is very exciting. I hope you guys enjoyed, though. If you did, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, especially if you want to discuss what EU5 seems to be doing in economies relative to Victoria 3. But other than that, have a happy Thursday on a Wednesday, have a happy Wednesday when I started recording this, but Thursday now on a Thursday. That's the one. Yeah.